Okay, in this video we're going to look at taking some of your hand skills. So in this case an ink drawing, and later on we're going to look at taking, bringing in a monoprint and how we can adapt and enhance them using Photoshop. So quickly to talk through, this is just a scan of an ink drawing of my very famous Bulldog. Scan straight in, so let's have a look at its size first of all. Image size. So it's good, it's nice and high res already, so we're happy with that. Okay, so that's okay. One thing you'll notice about this one is image mode. It's in grayscale. Now, when I scan in a black and white drawing, I always scan it in using grayscale. What I want it to do is do some of the filtering process for me. Okay, so that my black lines are really made up out of only tones of black and white as opposed to RGB, red, greens and blues. It makes the editing for what I want to do with this, okay, a bit faster. But of course at some point I'm going to have to take it out, okay, of grayscale, as I won't be able to color this image. But initially I'm going to go through this little technique that I use, a little simple technique that I've always used now for bringing in external drawings and prints, okay, and removing the white background. So stage one, process one is unlock my image from its background, and I will always call it line, but again, this you call it whatever you like to. Okay. Next two, I go into my wand. I want to turn contiguous off because I want to remove the white wherever I find it inside this image. Okay, and I'm going to set my tolerance fairly high. I come up to 60. Okay, and if I select anywhere on here with the white, okay, and then I'm a fairly destructive worker. Okay, so I could either delete this, okay, or we could play around with a quick mask, okay, not a quick mask, sorry, a layer mask. If I inverted my selection, okay, and then put on my layer mask, okay, that way it's removed my background. You see the great big black mask there, okay, but it's still editable if I want to come into it, okay. So there's your two options. Non-destructive, use a layer mask, okay, or destructive, which is generally how I work, okay, hit the old delete button. Now what I also want to do, you could stop at this point. The blacks in here are made up of all my different tones of greys, 50% black. I actually want it to be just this line drawing to be completely flat black. So I'm going to invert my selection again. So now the black line itself is what's selected, and I'm actually just going to fill it with black. Now a good shortcut to know for filling is Option Delete will fill with your foreground color. Command Delete will fill with whatever your background color is. So, and D is your shortcut to reset, and X will toggle between your foreground and background color. So I'm going to Option Delete as black as my foreground color. And now if I zoom right in, okay, you'll see my ink drawn line, okay, is perfectly black. Another good reason for the filling, the way I do it too, is that I now have guaranteed by doing that. Let's put in a nice color, okay. It's bright red or something, okay. I'm going to fill that with red, but of course before I can do that I need to change my color mode. So add a grayscale. Let's say this is going to be a print job then, so let's go CMYK. We don't want to merge our layers. Okay, now you see my colors have appeared. Now the other reason that I fill my black line is you will see that I have absolutely no halo at all. Okay, because by filling it, it fills in any parts of the selection that weren't perfect. Okay, now I actually want that to be white so I can see what I'm doing. Next stage would be, if you had it working on a layer mask, you would use your brush at this point. In my case, I'll just use my eraser. Make sure I'm on the correct layer, the line layer, okay, and I'll just delete off any of the little bits, okay, that I don't want to keep on here. Okay, so just do a quick tidy up. I don't want it to be too tidy. That's the point of the drawing. Okay, now the reason we do this too is, there's stuff. Photoshop is a fantastic tool, but it can't create everything, you know. Some of the lovely hand skills we have are just not, you can't replicate in here, however hard you try. I've tried to make brushes that'll do this perfect inky drawing, and it never looks even close, really. So to be able to use both together, you know, take a drawing, some hand skills, then bring it in here, manipulate it. Okay, knowing that as illustrators in this day and age, you know, every image we have to do, it will always be delivered digitally. Okay, so it's as in your cases, if your drawings, that you clean up as much or as little as you want. Okay, that'll probably almost do me. What I'm really more interested in is that there's not too much stuff outside of the Bulldog. The nice thing too, I feel, with doing this too, is that it means I feel I'm much freer with my drawings, because it doesn't matter if I put a big thumbprint on here somewhere, okay, because I know I can clean it up in here, so I'm not so precious in my drawing. Okay, well, there's my Bulldog done. Okay, he's cleaned up. We know that he's now fantastically transparent. I'm not going to do too much to this Bulldog, but what I want to do with, first of all, I want to get my colour swatches out. Okay, so I'm going to pick this nice bright blue colour, which I'm going to use for the background. But I want the background and I don't want the dog. So if I use my magic wand, okay, making sure I'm on my line, and this time we want contiguous on, so that when I select outside the Bulldog, okay, it doesn't break inside that line. Now I'll just zoom in to make sure it hasn't missed anywhere, which I know it does. It misses in this tiny bit here. So if I hold shift, I can add to that selection. Okay, now before I go on and fill this with this lovely blue, I do know that there's an issue. Okay, and the issue is there probably is a little bit of a halo. So if we go up to our select, modify, and expand. So let's just do it maybe 3 pixels. Okay, I now know that this selection, if I zoom right in, as you'll see, it has gone just within inside my black line. And if I come onto the layer below it, the bottom layer, add another layer, which I'm going to call blue, and fill that with blue. So I shall use Option Delete as it's my foreground colour. And now if I zoom right in, okay, you can see there's no halo at all around the edge. So from a scruffy little ink drawing, we're starting to create something. Now, I'll add one more bit of colour. Okay, I want to put some colour in the ribbon on his hat. So I'm going to go to my wand and make sure I've gone back to my line layer. I'm going to select with inside. Then I'm going to go select, modify, expand again. 3 pixels worked perfectly before. Now I'm going to get a nice bright red. I'm going to put on a new layer. So I'm going to keep all my colours separated so it's easy to manipulate again if I need to. And then fill that layer. Okay. Now one more thing I want to do is I want to make a shadow for my dog. So I'm going to create a new layer, which I want to go above the blue layer, otherwise it will just be hiding behind the blue. Call it shadow. Now I'm going to use my lasso tool here to draw a selection to fill. Now I'm going to use my free lasso tool because I want this to be quite a wobbly old line, just like my drawing. So let's come up here, I'll come out of his foot, and then I'll come over here. Try and come out of his foot over here, and then up here, that'll do. Okay, so now I'm going to use that same blue to fill it to start with. So Option Delete. Then I'm going to go to my hue and saturation, Command U. I'm just going to darken that up a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to deselect it. Now I need to, on that shadow layer, add a layer mask. There's my final bit. Okay, and then using my brush, So I think I'll put a hard edge on. I'll take away the bits of shadow that are now going over the top of my dear friend the Bulldog. Okay, and there he is, my Bulldog. What I might do though, that shadow layer, I think it needs to be a bit darker, it's a bit washy, so I can come back in here. That's much better. Okay, and I can change the blue if I want to by using the hue. That's nicer. And there he is. Okay. What I've got is all my layers. Good practice. Each one is named nicely. I know there's my line layer, there's my red color, that's my shadow, that's my blue, and that's my background. Save it as a PSD, and again, as I say, if this was a commercial job, flatten the image and save it as this file type you were specified, most likely 300 dpi CMYK TIFF.